6 major airlines are expanding to the Philippines so aggressively in 2025 that flight bookings have surged 340% in just the first quarter alone. If you've been waiting to visit this paradise, I'm sorry to say you might already be too late. Hotel prices have tripled, restaurants are booked solid for months, and some islands are limiting daily visitors for the first time in history. But here's what's really happening behind the scenes, and why this tourism explosion is actually part of a massive geopolitical chess game that most travelers have no idea they're participating in. Before we dive into these shocking airline expansions that are reshaping Southeast Asian travel forever, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you think about booking your next international trip. Number 6. Philippine Airlines Strategic Masterstroke. The Philippines flag carrier just pulled off what aviation experts are calling the most genius partnership move in recent memory. Meet Sarah, a travel blogger from London who's been documenting this chaos firsthand. She booked her Philippines trip back in January for £800 return, thinking she was being smart by planning ahead. That same route today? £1,400, if you can even find availability. Here's why that happened. Philippine Airlines announced a strategic partnership with Qatar Airways, launching daily non-stop Manila-Doha flights starting June 16, 2025, while posting a staggering 20% profit increase in the first quarter of 2025 alone. That's not just growth, that's explosive demand meeting smart strategy. But here's what the press releases aren't telling you. This partnership doesn't just connect Manila to Doha, it opens doors to Qatar Airways' entire network of 160 global destinations. Suddenly, the Philippines isn't just a destination, it's a hub. Sarah discovered she could now reach Manila from London with one stop in Doha, cutting her travel time by 4 hours compared to the traditional European routes. The catch that's making tourists panic? Qatar Airways' premium pricing model is now influencing Philippine Airlines fares. Budget travelers who relied on cheap connections through Asia are watching their options evaporate as the Philippines positions itself as a premium destination. Number 5. Cebu Pacific's expansion frenzy. The Philippines' largest airline is adding routes so fast their own booking system crashed twice in March, leaving thousands of passengers in digital queues for hours. Meet James, a business consultant from Sydney who watched this unfold in real time. He was monitoring Cebu Pacific's route announcements for his quarterly Manila trips when suddenly, in 1 week, they announced 3 new routes that would cut his travel time in half. By April 2025, Cebu Pacific had already added 3 major international routes: Cebu to Ho Chi Minh, Iloilo to Bangkok, and Manila to Sapporo. That's not gradual expansion, that's aggressive market capture. Each route targets a specific demographic, from Vietnamese business travelers to Japanese tourists seeking tropical escapes. James thought he'd found the perfect solution to expensive Australian-Philippines flights, but here's the twist. Cebu Pacific's budget airline model is morphing into something else entirely. When demand exploded, their dynamic pricing algorithms started charging what the market would bear. James watched a flight he'd bookmarked jump from $400 to $900 in 3 days. Smart travelers are beating this price surge by booking connecting flights through Cebu Pacific's new regional hubs, sometimes saving 40% compared to direct Manila routes. But Cebu Pacific's real strategy involves something no one saw coming: a complete reimagining of how Southeast Asian budget travel works. Number 4. AirAsia's Cebu Revolution. One airline is quietly turning a single Filipino city into their Asian mega-hub, and it's not Manila. Meet Maria, a frequent flyer from Singapore who discovered she could now reach 5 different countries from Cebu without ever stepping foot in the Philippines capital. This wasn't just convenient, it was a complete game changer for her business travel. AirAsia Philippines is launching 5 new routes from Cebu starting November 15, 2025. Connections to Iloilo, Cataclan, Davao, Kuala Lumpur, and Macau. Notice what's happening here. They're not just adding international routes, they're creating a domestic and international hub that bypasses Manila entirely. Maria realized she could fly Singapore to Cebu, then connect to Palawan or Boracay without the usual Manila airport chaos. The time savings? 6 hours. The cost savings? Nearly 60% compared to traditional routing. But this isn't just expansion, this is warfare against traditional airline hubs. AirAsia is betting that travelers are tired of crowded, expensive hubs like Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur. By turning Cebu into their Pacific gateway, they're creating a new model where secondary cities become primary hubs. The emotional impact is huge. Tourists who've always seen Cebu as a connection point are now planning entire vacations around its accessibility. But here's where it gets wild. The most shocking expansion comes from an airline that, technically, shouldn't even be operating in the Philippines at this level. Number 3. United Airlines' surprising Filipino gamble. An American aviation giant just announced routes that have Filipino Americans crying tears of joy across California. Meet Roberto, a Filipino nurse working in San Francisco who hasn't seen his family in Cebu for 3 years. Not because of the pandemic, but because the flight connections were so expensive and complicated that his modest healthcare salary couldn't justify the cost. United Airlines is launching new routes from Cebu with additional frequencies, marking their most aggressive Pacific expansion since before COVID. Roberto watched the announcement live on his phone during his hospital break, and he told me his hands were literally shaking as he realized he could now fly direct from San Francisco to Cebu. This isn't just about tourism. United's real target is the massive Filipino diaspora in the American West Coast. There are over 4 million Filipino Americans, and they've been underserved by direct flight options for decades. United saw an opportunity and pounced. But here's the deeper strategy. United isn't just chasing the diaspora market, they're positioning themselves for the massive business travel boom that's coming as the Philippines becomes a major outsourcing and technology hub. Roberto's story is personal, but United's bet is purely economic. They're anticipating that the Philippines will become the next major business destination in Asia. The emotional impact can't be understated. Families separated by expensive, complicated travel are suddenly finding connection within reach. But United's expansion revealed something else, something that shows just how dramatically the geopolitical landscape is shifting. Number 2. Qatar Airways' strategic Pacific masterstroke. The world's most awarded airline just made the Philippines their Asian gateway, and it's not just about tourism. Meet Elizabeth, a luxury traveler from Dubai who's been watching Qatar Airways' expansion with fascination. She discovered she could now reach Manila in 5 hours instead of the traditional 12-hour connections through European hubs. Qatar Airways' strategic partnership with Philippine Airlines includes daily non-stop Manila-Doha flights, but that barely scratches the surface of what's really happening. Qatar isn't just adding routes, they're positioning the Philippines as their hub for the entire Pacific region. Elizabeth realized she could now book Philippines trips as luxury stopovers to Australia and New Zealand. Qatar's premium service model transforms a previously budget destination into a high-end travel experience. She's paying business-class prices, but getting access to pristine beaches and authentic culture that Europe's wealthy elite haven't discovered yet. The psychological shift is enormous. The Philippines is shedding its image as a budget backpacker destination and emerging as a luxury alternative to overcrowded Thailand and Indonesia. Elizabeth's social media posts from her Palawan resort are generating massive engagement from her wealthy friends who never considered the Philippines before. But Qatar's real genius lies in their timing. While other Middle Eastern airlines focused on traditional European and American routes, Qatar saw the demographic shift happening in Asia. The Philippines' growing middle class, combined with the massive diaspora market, creates a passenger base that values both luxury and authenticity. However, the most game-changing expansion comes from a European airline that's making a €500 million bet on Filipino tourism recovery. Number 1. Air France's unprecedented luxury gamble. A European luxury airline is betting €500 million on Filipino tourism, and their reasoning reveals something shocking about global economic shifts. Meet Pierre, a French businessman who discovered that Manila is now more accessible from Paris than Tokyo, despite being thousands of miles further away. Air France's Manila-Paris service is launching as part of a major route development initiative that aviation analysts are calling the boldest Pacific expansion by a European carrier in decades. Pierre's story illustrates why this matters. As a luxury goods executive, he needs to access both Southeast Asian markets and maintain European connections. Air France's direct routing makes the Philippines his perfect Asian base. But this isn't really about tourism, it's about France positioning itself in the fastest-growing economy in Asia. The Philippines' GDP is projected to grow 6.8% annually through 2030, making it one of the world's most attractive business markets. Air France is betting that French companies will follow their flight routes. Pierre discovered something remarkable. First-class passengers are treating the Philippines as the new Thailand for luxury travel. The infrastructure is rapidly improving, English is widely spoken, and most importantly, it hasn't been discovered by mass luxury tourism yet. He's finding 5-star experiences at 3-star prices, but that window is closing fast. The emotional trigger is powerful. Luxury travelers are driven by exclusivity and authentic experiences. The Philippines offers both, but Air France's expansion signals that this secret is about to go mainstream. Pierre jokes that he's telling all his friends to visit now, before it becomes another Bali. But none of these airlines expected what happened next, and it reveals the true driver behind this unprecedented expansion. The tourism explosion nobody predicted. Hotel prices in Manila have tripled in 6 months, and it's not just supply and demand. Meet David, who planned a budget backpacking trip to the Philippines last year. He'd researched hostels, street food, and local transport, expecting to spend about $30 per day like he did in Vietnam and Cambodia. David's reality check came when he arrived in January. His carefully researched $15 hostel was now charging $45. The street food stalls had been replaced by upscale restaurants catering to the new wave of affluent tourists. Even local transport prices had increased as demand from international visitors outstripped capacity. The Philippines is experiencing tourism recovery faster than any Southeast Asian nation, but it's not the backpacker revival that everyone expected. It's a fundamental shift toward higher spending, longer-staying visitors who are reshaping the entire hospitality landscape. David adapted by discovering what smart travelers already know. The airline expansions are opening access to secondary destinations that still offer authentic, affordable experiences. Instead of staying in Manila or Cebu, he island hopped to places like Siquijor and Camiguin, where the new flight connections made access easier but tourist infrastructure remained unchanged. But here's the shocking truth. These airline expansions aren't coincidence, and they're not just business opportunities. They're strategic responses to the most significant geopolitical shift in Southeast Asia since World War II. The hidden geopolitical chess game. These airline expansions represent economic warfare disguised as tourism development. While China's influence in the Philippines has dramatically declined following territorial disputes and diplomatic tensions, Western and Middle Eastern airlines have moved in to fill the vacuum. Every new flight route is a statement of economic alliance and strategic partnership. Aviation experts confirm this is the largest coordinated airline expansion in Southeast Asian history, but coordination doesn't mean conspiracy. It means multiple international actors recognize the same opportunity at the same moment. The Philippines is emerging as a strategic alternative to China-influenced destinations throughout Asia. Your holiday destination has become the center of a global power struggle you didn't even know existed. When you book a flight on Qatar Airways, you're participating in Middle Eastern economic diplomacy. When you choose United Airlines, you're supporting American Pacific strategy. When you fly Air France, you're part of European expansion into Asian markets. The emotional impact is complex. Travelers want authentic experiences and good value, but they're unknowingly voting in an economic war with every booking decision. The Philippines benefits enormously from this competition, gaining infrastructure investment and tourism revenue, but at the cost of losing control over their own development trajectory. What this actually means for your travel plans. Despite the chaos, smart travelers are finding incredible opportunities, but you need to understand the new rules. First, book now for 2026 travel. The airlines I've mentioned are adding capacity throughout 2025, but 2026 is when availability stabilizes and prices moderate. Second, consider secondary airports and destinations. While Manila and Cebu are experiencing explosive growth, places like Clark, Iloilo, and Davao offer the same experiences with better prices and fewer crowds. The new airline routes make these destinations more accessible than ever. Third, embrace island hopping packages. The domestic flight expansion means you can now see multiple Philippine destinations in one trip without the traditional routing complications. Travel that used to require careful planning and local knowledge is now as simple as booking connecting flights. The fear of higher prices is legitimate, but accessibility is improving dramatically. The Philippines is about to become easier to reach than Thailand or Vietnam from most international origins. The premium you pay for flights might be offset by the incredible value you'll find when you arrive. But there's one crucial thing you must understand before booking. This expansion is creating a two-tiered tourism system. The new airline routes cater to affluent international tourists, while budget options are being squeezed out. Plan accordingly. If this deep dive into the aviation revolution transforming Philippine tourism has opened your eyes to the complex forces shaping our travel choices, make sure you're subscribed for more insider analysis. We regularly uncover the hidden connections between geopolitics, economics, and the places you want to visit. Here's my question for you, and I'm genuinely curious about your perspective. Would you pay 40% more for a flight to the Philippines if it meant direct access to untouched islands and authentic culture that mass tourism hasn't discovered yet? Or would you wait and risk missing this golden window before it becomes the next overcrowded destination like Bali or Phuket? Tell us in the comments which airline expansion shocked you the most, and whether you think the Philippines can handle this tourism explosion without losing what makes it special. Are we witnessing the birth of a new Asian tourism powerhouse, or the destruction of one of the world's last authentic paradise destinations?